League of Legends. I've been a gamer since the late 80s, and as a result, I have a pretty extensive knowledge of games and gaming history. Much like music, there are at least a few games in just about every genre that I've put a not insignificant amount of hours into. There's always been one gap in that knowledge though, and that's MOBA games. Multiplayer Online Battle Arena Games. It's a relatively new genre. The first one was released in 2003 and was actually a fan-made mod for an existing game. The genre blew up in popularity, so much so that professional players can now pull in millions of dollars playing in worldwide tournaments. Currently, the vast majority of people play one of two games. Dota 2, which stands for Defense of the Ancients 2, is released in 2013, is actually a sequel to that first MOBA game, and has a current player base of approximately 43 million players. The other game is League of Legends. It's actually even older. Originally, it was released in 2009, but it currently has a player base of approximately 180 million players. It's quite notorious for being the most popular MOBA game on Earth and is actually the fourth most popular PC game currently. But another thing it's popular for is its community.
Stop blaming your f***ing teammates! What are you talking about? I'm talking to f***ing you! Vamos, da puli, van! Who's coming on?
Alright, but before we get into that, what the f is even happening right now? Much like you probably, when I first saw this kind of gameplay, I had no idea what I was even looking at. To be honest, I still kind of don't, but after spending some time with the game, I think I can explain at least the basics of what's going on here. So this is the map, 5 versus 5. One team starts here, one team starts here. Near each team's home base is a nexus. To win the game, you destroy the opposing team's nexus. There are 3 lanes between each nexus, and each lane has a series of turrets starting from the nexus to just about the halfway point. These turrets will automatically fire at nearby enemies and player characters and help you prevent the opposing team from making it over to your side. At the very basic level of strategy, you want to move through a lane, destroying your opponent's turrets along the way until you can make it safely to their nexus. But that's not it. Each nexus periodically spawns minions, which are little AI-controlled troops that automatically march towards your opponent's nexus and will engage any enemies they encounter along the way, including turrets. These minions spawn infinitely. They use basic attacks and they can't be controlled at all. Then why do they exist? Ask no one. Because turrets will kill you. You can't take them out alone, so you want to ambush your opponents alongside these minions, taking advantage of their numbers and positioning in order to advance towards your opponent's nexus. But it gets deeper. Each player on each team can select one of over 140 different champions to play as, each with their own roles, unique abilities, and playstyle. But that's not it. Games can take a while, roughly 30 minutes at the beginner level, and throughout the match, each team is constantly earning golden experience points, which you can get by killing the other team's minions, the players themselves, destroying a turret, and killing the random minions that don't belong to either team, and just kind of live in the jungle. Seriously. The experience points will level up your character, allowing you to choose which abilities get stronger, and the gold will allow you to buy items which improve different stats like attack damage, attack speed, magic damage, etc. Experience and gold are important enough for winning that one player will typically spend a good portion of the match just killing stuff in the jungle. In addition to that, there's a big-ass dragon and a big-ass baron out in the jungle, and if your team can kill either one while managing everything else, you get a buttload of experience and gold, giving everyone in your team the opportunity to level up, buy new items, and get stronger. This game is strategy on strategy on strategy, and now that you're ready to win the League of Legends World Championship, maybe you can tell me, what is it about this game that makes the community so toxic? My first guess had to do with that level of complexity, honestly. I wondered if having so many factors influencing the gameplay in a single match might be making it easier to feel like any loss you take is out of your control. Because if it's out of your control, then it's not your fault. And if it's not your fault, then it must be someone else's, right? Despite hearing about the game and its community in passing for at least a decade now, I've never bothered to play it myself, and I've never known anyone that plays it either. Recently though, I started interning at a company where I encountered a guy named
Jake. I am 25 years old. I'm from originally Los Angeles, California, but now I live here in Honolulu, and I unfortunately play League of Legends.
With such a complex game, I would imagine the real reasons behind that toxicity are equally as complicated. So although I did my best to get a consensus on the issue, it seems like there are numerous reasons that this game brings that behavior out in its players. And since it appears to be an issue that hasn't really had a definitive answer in the almost 14 years since its release, I thought I would start by getting an experienced player's perspective on the issue.
I've been playing League of Legends since 2017, I think. My experience as a new player to the game was horrible. It was very challenging. The skill gap is a lot, the learning curve is a lot, and then overall it is a very toxic community and made me upset multiple times. I think that the community is toxic overall and does not change.
Okay.
Even if you played a long time compared to a short time, I feel like changes you and makes you more toxic. Let's just say I wasn't toxic at the start when I started playing the game, and then I definitely am super toxic now. I am contributing to the community's downfall, but you know, it's a perpetuating thing and you can't really change it. Oh yeah. I've been in rage fits multiple times over the game, but you know, I still play it. I don't know why. I just feel like competitive online gaming as a whole is a very toxic community. It is very hard to deviate from a toxic culture online because so many people can shroud themselves behind their computers. Yeah, Riot Games is actually really good about being toxic. They chat ban, meaning you cannot talk in game. And then they also give you, there's a feature that if you report, then they can get like feedback on your report of people to say that like, oh, they got banned, so that you know. They try to make their culture more friendly. It's like virtually impossible, but they try their best.
And there does seem to be some truth to this. When you first install the game, you can't log in or play without agreeing to a series of guidelines regarding your behavior as a player. That said, it is a lot easier to check a box and agree to something than it is to actually be kind to other people, especially when they make mistakes. So I thought, what better way to potentially invite toxicity than to go in completely blind as a new player and attempt to play the game with 4 other people. I played 5 games in a row, slowly beginning to learn more as I played, and by the time I made it to the 5th game, I felt like I at least knew the basics of what I was supposed to be doing and what we were all trying to do as a team. I kept a good eye on chat, and aside from people kindly requesting that I leave their lane and spamming emotes at not just me, but everyone, the only real toxicity I witnessed was between 2 other players who at some point during one of the matches began to call each other trash and blame our losing game on the other person. Until we actually lost. Anyway, it is highly possible that we were all too new to the game to even recognize someone else playing badly, but I suspect at the end of the day, whatever the actual reasons are, the reputation just might be bigger than the phenomenon itself. After all, it is the bad apples that ruin the bunch, as they say, and it's a lot harder to forget a bad experience than it is a good one. One thing I will say is my attempt to join various discords for the game and find other players who are willing to be interviewed about the community proved pretty fruitless. I suppose maybe I shouldn't have expected to find a definitive answer with such a brief exposure to the game, but it was definitely interesting to kind of dip my toes into the supposed festering cesspool of degeneracy. That said, at my level anyway, the game was actually pretty fun once I got the hang of things, but I do recognize that I'm just barely scratching the surface, so maybe I should revisit this topic in the future after gaining more experience with the game. For now though, I'll leave you with Jake's words of advice for new players.
Do your research on what you're doing, what you're playing, and like what to expect in game. Mute people. Stop playing when you start getting mad. That's my advice. Don't play League of Legends.